Hey guys, 2 weeks from today, okay, on the 26th, we're gonna be in New York City after a meeting with Gary Vee, and I'm putting a dinner together. I would love for you guys to attend. I am keeping it small. We have 4 people already committed, so if you're interested in that, send me a message on Messenger on my Facebook, and we'll talk about it. If I get too many people, I'm gonna have to cut it off at a certain point, but communicate with me. If you're interested in going, love to have you there. Today is Monday, June 12th, 2017, and this is the ServiceMonster Show. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about ServiceMonster's history, the new Apple show, Planet of the Apps, and release 6.0.112. This week in social media. So last week, Planet of the Apps came out. It's available on iTunes. You can get it as an Android download. Got to go through and set up an account. There's a free 3 months, so if it's worth it to you. It's pretty cool. It's like Shark Tank, but it's a little differently set up. They've got Jessica Alba, Will.i.am, Gwyneth Paltrow, kind of celebrity entrepreneurs. They've got some business chops, but they're certainly there to look pretty. And then they got Gary Vaynerchuk, who I think they're setting up as Simon, so that ought to be interesting. I'm definitely interested in it. Obviously, a Gary fan. The apps, maybe not so much, but it's interesting to see what the development community is putting up to the forefront. June 22nd, next Thursday, ServiceMonster is going to be doing a special webinar on commissions. Sam and his team will be leading that up. I encourage you to get subscribed to that early. Incidentally, last week's Ask ServiceMonster was also on commissions. I broke down a little bit about the structures and gave you some data based off of our database. I would encourage you to go watch that if you're interested in the topic itself, but by no means are we pitching you have to have commissions. Only 50% of our database uses it, so whatever works for you, man. Last week, Jay Young and I did a live stream on Service Call talking about Facebook stories. I think they're a huge value there. They're underutilized right now, so there's a vacuum. So go check that out if you can. Service Call is kind of a group on Facebook that I created as a podcast conglomeration. I allow anyone who's producing a podcast for the service industry to post there as long as it's relevant content of value and not ads. Don't do ads. This week in ServiceMonster, in Wednesday, we have our company meeting. Quarterly, we get everybody together and we kind of talk about the vision and where we're at, and the department heads kind of get to tell their tales as far as status. It's good as a little get together, kind of a campsite fire type deal. We do it in the building with a new space. We have a nice space to do a nice kind of a round section there, although we're almost approaching 40 employees. So it's very cool, very big, lots of participation. Usually they're about half hour, 45 minutes, and it's mandatory for all full-time employees. On Friday, we have the semi-annual Board of Directors meeting. I thought I'd take an opportunity a little bit to talk about the ownership structure of ServiceMonster, because I know a lot of people don't necessarily know that story. I started ServiceMonster. It was certainly my brainchild, and I came up with it in the Summerfield Suites while flying back and forth between Sacramento and Denver with the other startup that I was working with at the time. I learned exactly how not to do a startup, and then when I started ServiceMonster, I knew I didn't want venture capital or funding, so I found some colleagues to work with. Eric, who is now our Chief Operating Officer, and I had a basketball game. I hate basketball. I can't play it worth crap. I was there to pitch him the idea, and then my trio was eaten. My dog ate my phone. Long story. Anyway, so we kind of closed the deal there on some ideas and then pulled in Chris. Chris Lorian was in real estate at the time in California, and he was an ex-carpet cleaner. So the 3 of us got together and we were able to pull in enough cash to make it a go for like the next 8 months, 6 months. We also pulled in David. David Miller is someone who I've worked with for a long time, pulled in at AutoZone when I used to work there. He's a great code slinger and he still works for us today in that capacity. So that's kind of the general structure. And then when we decided to rebuild our first product, even before it was out, because we knew the web was the thing, we pulled in someone else, a friend of David's from the family. We were off and running. We ate shit for 4 years before we hit profitability, so we could grow from there. But that's generally the story. There's 5 owners, and myself, 2 other working members, David and Eric, and then 2 external members, Chris and Jason. Every 6 months we get together and play board of directors. We talk about where we've been and where we're going and what we're looking for the future. ServiceMonster updates. So we're looking on releasing 6.0.112. It includes a new 42 trackers and user features that we have included. They include emailing route packets, assigning activities to multiple employees, a character limit increase on your product and service, and a quick way to remove invoices from attached emails. I have the team focused this week almost exclusively on blowing out our bug and what we call friction backlog. So maybe not really a bug, but certainly something that somebody else expects to work in a way that we don't have it. A breadcrumbs is a good example in this case. Breadcrumbs is working by a specific design. It's just not working the way 5 does. And so it's a friction point for some people who come into 5 who've spent time developing processes that breadcrumb was developed for. I know I built it. It's not easy to mimic that functionality. So we designed a new way as a placeholder, and now they're going to be addressing it here in the next week or so. Stuff like that. We still have maybe 20 or 30 items on the plate, mostly reported from you guys at Smug. And just know that we are working diligently through those, and those are going to be our focus point for this week. In addition, I'm very excited to say that Dave has found an issue of sluggish performance I didn't even really know existed. I would get alerts every once in a while, but I wasn't seeing much activity in Smug, and I wasn't getting reports from the staff on phone calls. Every once in a while though. And then I think last week I saw a handful of people talking about it in larger scale than my understanding, and then I reached out and discovered that it was a little bit more problematic than I understood. So apologize for the delay there. We're putting in some automated systems in place to help prevent that in the future. However, the great news is David found the issue. It has to do with security and the way that things are being requested and how often, as opposed to how much they need to keep kind of an understanding or their own memory. I won't get too technical here, but just know that it should be a significant increase in performance and improvement, especially during peak hours of usage. Our CPU cycle should be reduced by like 50 or 60%. It hasn't been published yet, but look for that announcement with 6.0.122. ServiceMonster Mobile 3, Lee's about ready to kick out a new APK. He's tackled a handful of issues. He spent a long time refactoring how conflicts were shown. So the way that it was coded previously wasn't really good for a maintenance cycle. So he spent some time last week, almost the full week, redesigning that to make it easier to work on in the future. From everyone here at ServiceMonster, thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for the demo, and give us a call.